Tonight on Cosmic Convergence, we're joined by someone who has become a daily pulse reader of the phenomenon. Jack Connor, creator of Cosmic Road, has been tracking the UAP story with a consistency and clarity few can match. He brings not only breaking news and sharp analysis, but the perspective of an experiencer who understands that this isn't just hardware in the sky, it's consciousness, contact, and the deeper mystery behind it all. Jack's work bridges the headlines with the human side of the phenomenon, and his voice has become essential for anyone trying to navigate disclosure in real time. So welcome, everybody. Get in here. We've got Jack from Cosmic Road joining Cosmic Convergence. I can't think of a better matchup for today. Again, Jack, thanks for being here with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And like you say, it's about time for Cosmic Convergence to converge with Cosmic Road.
That's right. That's right. Perfect. Two galaxies coming together for a great podcast. I hope everybody enjoys it. And before we get into the questions, if you don't know Jack Connor, Cosmic Road, I'll put up a screenshot here showing you his direct channel. I'll also put in the description. Follow, like, and subscribe to Jack. It's well worth it. Well worth it. So we're going to just dive really deep into this right now. By the way, cool mug. He also sells merch. Make sure that you get it. All right. Shirts. I love the poster in the background. We're talking about the little Nazca mummy head in the background there. Great stuff. But anyway, you've always emphasized evidence-based UFO research. With the renewed attention on the Nazca mummies, we'll just go right into it. The scans, the biological analysis, and the conflicting expert opinions. What's your take on the discoveries so far? Do you see anything in the research that suggests that these beings could be authentic? And what would the implications be for the broader UFO phenomenon if even one of them turned out to be legitimate?
Well, I think more than one of them is legit. I think most of them are legit. The science on them is amazing. It could be better. I think a lot more resources need to be spent on the study of the Nazca mummies. And I credit Jaime Maussan for channeling the money, most of the money that has been spent on the Nazca mummy research. So he gets a lot of flack, but we have him to thank for a lot of the research. But yeah, the mummies have had 50 plus doctors, scientists, and various experts studying them. All the experts who have actually physically studied them have verified their authenticity in their various, areas of expertise. They've had CAT scans, MRIs, you name it. They've had it, and they've passed all the tests. I was listening to Ross Coulthart today. I don't know when this video is going to air, but Ross just came out with this, lovely piece, an hour, 15-minute piece where he dives into the Nazca mummies. He goes to Peru himself and he talks to the scientists. He doesn't go really deep into the science or the various facts around the mummies. Yeah, he doesn't talk about, fingerprints and, stuff like that. That I think is very helpful in this discussion, because that is one of the main debunks that has been trotted out years ago and again recently, is the idea that, the hands, for example, Maria's hands could be cobbled together dead body parts. And there's no breaks in the skin and yada, yada, yada. I could go through 10 minutes on that, but fingerprints, they don't have human fingerprints. Maria does not have a human fingerprint. So if she was cobbled together from dead body parts, what body parts are those? So he didn't go into the deep stuff, but he does say at one point, there's two camps of experts, those pro mummy and those pro, against mummy. Right. But that's not exactly true. There's two camps, one camp that has actually studied them physically, that authenticates them as real beings. And there's another camp that has not. They have trended lately because people, I guess, don't want to believe, and they have a knee-jerk reaction against these fake-looking doll-like things that they don't look real, so they can't be real. So we're going to go with these BS guys who haven't actually studied the mummies in person, because that's what we want to believe. And so they trended, and some people like Jesse Michaels, who I normally love, and he had been pro-mummy, but as soon as that started trending, he was now doubting the mummies, which I thought was unfortunate. And it's not helping the cause because we do have non-human bodies seemingly, as 50 plus doctors and scientists attest to. But there you go. We have the camp of those people who have actually studied the mummies versus the people who have not studied the mummies. And so I think that, Ross saying that was not as helpful as it could have been, but at least he didn't lean into the skeptical argument like I was afraid. I was afraid he was going to give equal time to the skeptics and the actual scientists who have studied the mummies, which would have been unfortunate. We all need debunkers to keep us honest. I'm not saying we shouldn't have debunkers. We don't want to chase our tails, chase phantoms. So we need a certain level of debunking, but they need to be honest debunks, not debunks with an agenda. And that is, I feel, where the debunks have been going with the Nazca mummies. So I was glad that he didn't give equal time to the, in my mind, disingenuous debunks.
Yeah, I agree. And, I was thinking about this, of course, watching your videos, because you cover the Nazca mummies and, of course, other things, but the Nazca mummies in great detail. Any new news that shows up, you're on it. And I was just thinking, if these were fake, I would imagine that they'd have to have at least 20, 30 people that are slapping together, human body parts with the llama skulls and everything else that they claim, right? Almost on a daily basis, just in order to fabricate so many. I mean, there's like countless numbers now, and I'm not saying that they're all genuine. Okay, like the Gremlins,
they look fake as F. No, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I look forward to seeing some X-rays and some analyses of that. Right. So far, I haven't seen any actual study of that.
Right.
I will say that if they are real, that'd be really interesting because they combine elements of the insectiles and, the classic little guys. So that, definitely indicates some crossbreeding or some interesting hybridization going on there. They've got the wings, but they also have the more classic little guy features, not the spindly looking insectile thing. So that'd be interesting. But the spine looks good. I will say on the gremlins, when you look at them and you turn them over and you look at the spine connecting to the tail, it all looks of a piece. So, but again, I want to see some research on that. And I have not seen any of that. And if those are fake, then obviously that calls into question others. But they have been studied so extensively. It's really hard to, they've got eggs in them. They have, and some of the gremlins there's only like a couple of gremlins, but they have a weird feature in their mouths that is like an organ that a reptile would have. Yes. And that'd be a weird feature, I think, for a hoaxer to put in there. So we'll see where the research goes on that. But, but I agree. They don't look as compelling as I would like them to look.
No, I mean, remember when it first came, when all this first came out, and I'll pass it to Chris, sorry. When this all first came out and people were posting videos and pictures of their cake, they'd make a cake that looked like, and they'd be eating and be like, oh, it's cake, but what you did bring up that's interesting, and Chris and I had covered this with our associate Daniel, was the frozen body that they had found. What was it back in I'm bad on dates, right around the 90s or something like that.
Talking about the Siberian being?
Yes. And how it matches so closely to some of the Nazca examples. It's got
the video quality isn't great. I wish that we had high HD back then, but it is what it is. And what we can see of it, it seems to have the little pits in the side of its face. Everything just maps up exactly to the Nazca mummies, including the baby bump.
Вот его там нашли, короче, смотри. Пойдем. Где нашли? Вон, видишь. Сейчас сюда проходим, смотри. Вон она, сука, безобразие лежит. Сейчас, погоди, нашли-то? Да вот, ебать, часа 2 назад, хули, ебаный. Собака хули унюхала, сука. И все, мы хули думаем, что за нахуй лежит? Смотри, бывший. Да я хуй знает, погоди, смотри. Вообще, ебать его копать, что за нахуй-то это? Это понятно, что дохлый его будет. Да хлеб, короче, лежит.
Она не наша планета.
Полнейшая дохлеть.
На инопланетяне.
Ноги хули нету, ебаный, нахуй.
Загрызли, наверное.
Мгм. Вообще как это ебать тень. Непонятная.
Он уже, наверное, с неделю лежит, наверное, тут.
Но
Если не больше.
The little Nazca mummies that are pregnant, I want to say there's 2 of them, but correct me if I'm mistaken on that. They have a little baby bump in their very lower abdomen. And this one has exactly that, as I showed in the video, a video the other day. So I'm really intrigued by that being. I think it's unfortunate. I mean, a poor being if it was a real being. I mean, sad that it died, but as for our purposes, it's really unfortunate that the limbs were torn away.
Yes.
And we could, if we could see how many fingers and toes it had, that would have been really intriguing, and the shape of its limbs.
Skeptics, debunkers were saying, "Oh, that's just a frozen chicken that's been modified."
Well, that was the debunk that came out. That was the
Yep.
the Siberian authorities or whoever it was. They wanted to tamp this thing down, and they said, "You've got to debunk this, guys. Let's put a chicken on it."
Mhm.
And they made them reconstructed out of chicken skin, and people have done comparisons between the chicken skin being and the videos of what we might think of as the real being, and they don't line up. There are discrepancies between the chicken skin being and the one in the snow. So I'm in for that reason, and for the reasons that it lines up so well with the Nazca mummies, I'm inclined to think that we might be looking at a real being in that video, which means, because that was recently deceased, that there are still these beings running around. And people say that. People in South America say that, yeah, they see these guys coming and going from caves. They're still around. So that's interesting.
It's like the ant people, when you have these other cultures talking about the ant people, it's probably all the same, or they're very closely related. And I do agree with you, Jack, that they probably still are alive in pockets, maybe under the earth or somewhere, but they're still around. They're most definitely still around.
Well,
for sure.
I did a video the other day about the little beings that live under our feet.
Yep.
And okay, so we have the Siberian being that's a few years old, potentially. We have Alyoshinka, who's I don't know if you saw that. There's a alien body or a being discovered in Russia. I want to say this was in the 90s, and it was alive when it was found. Have y'all heard the story?
This one, to me, no. Yeah, I haven't.
Please
Excuse me. Oh, yeah. So there's an old lady found this being, and she may have been a little addled. I don't know, but she thought she nursed it like it was a human baby. I mean, she took care of it, took care of it and fed it, and it stayed alive for a while. And she would tell people about this baby that she had, and they would think she was crazy. And ultimately, she was institutionalized, and the being died. And one of her, I want to say her son or son-in-law or somebody like that, went to her apartment and found this being. And he, inexpertly mummified it. I don't know exactly how he did it, but he preserved it. And so we have pictures of this mummified being who then shortly vanished. And there are different accounts of how it vanished. We don't know how this thing vanished, but it was alive at the time it was found. And we have a little guy, a little being, what's left of him. I mean, it's the full thing, but he's a little shriveled guy that was found in a cave in Mexico. And that being apparently was just a few years old. The Atacama mummy, which I take seriously, was only a few decades old. A very similar type of little guy, and I say little guy because they're fairly small, that was found alive by a fisherman, and I want to say like the 70s or something like that. And it was in a group of other little guys, and one of these guys latched onto him, and he felt threatened, and he killed it, and he took the body with him. And I don't know what has happened to the body, but we do have the pictures of that, and presumably the body is somewhere. I wish I knew where. But yeah, so there's some examples of little beings that all were either alive at the time or recently deceased, which might indicate, and that was subterranean in the islands off of Mexico or South America. And the others seem to be subterranean. So, do we live in a world that has little non-humans running around below our feet? I think we might.
I think we might. And one more thing is, the panda was thought of as a mythical animal until they finally recorded it and found it in China. So, I mean, there's nothing to be said that just because we don't see them going to our local Walmart, that they don't exist. It's just coming down to, discovering them, and actually, I would hate to capture. I mean, I'm one of those people where I would hate to capture, but, capture,
Make friends with
definitely
them.
not kill. Yeah. Yeah. Try to communicate, I mean, if it's,
Bigfoot are said to like gifts, maybe they like gifts.
there you go. They just like crows, right?
I do find it interesting that because I'm talking about like when this first happened and they had like a whole Gaia special where there's a whole documentary on the Nazca mummies, some of the research that was being done. One of the things I found very interesting was the silica or like that powder that you see. They're all white. They have this like powder where they found them and stuff. And I don't know if the information has changed since then, but they had mentioned that this kind of like powder-like substance was like you would need some kind of a lab or something to like kind of produce it, which was added to the mystery. Like, how would these people like fake this and then also have a lab? And like, it's just really weird. And plus, where they were found, it was so out there. You know what I mean? Like in the middle of like nowhere. So it's just like, it's kind of interesting to me. And I bring this up because it's just one of the pieces of evidence, but I wanted to ask you, like, what is the most profound piece of evidence that you have? Like, for me personally, it's definitely the fetus and the eggs is very, very interesting because you have to do an x-ray, but inside of these, which are intact, you have things in there, it's like beyond me how like anyone would fake that. But I wanted to ask what you find most compelling.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. Raphael, the fetus inside Montserrat. And again, that comes back to money and resources being spent on the study of these beings. We have one image that seems to indicate that Raphael is tridactyl, like his mother. We need more images. We need better images. We need to be able to corroborate that Raphael is indeed tridactyl, that he has 3 fingers and 3 toes, naturally, without any manipulation. You can't say anybody manipulated the fetus inside Montserrat. So that is the smoking gun. And I don't know why more money can't be poured into the study of the Nazca mummies to authenticate them. It's so frustrating. I mean, I know money is a limited resource, but money gets blown on such frivolous things. And this is arguably a very important thing. Proof that we are not alone and that we might not be alone right now. And we're not, of course, but yeah, this is, yeah. So, absolutely. Raphael is extremely compelling. Also the osmium in the implants, this extremely rare, precious metal that's extremely expensive, used in like cell phones and things, that we only discovered a couple hundred years ago. And it was in these 1,500-year-old corpses in the Nazca region. And the Nazca people were not using osmium. They were headhunters. They were a grim and grisly group, which is not to say that the Peruvians were like that. They were very advanced people. They were at the same time, they were pyramid builders. And, even before that, there were pyramid builders and megalithic builders who may or may not have connections with Atlantis. But the Nazca people were not like somebody you'd want to have a beer with. And I'm not sure why the Nazca beings were hanging out there. I have a lot of questions. The oldest Nazca mummies that we have are the giant hands. We have about 3 of those that have been dated to 6,000 or 7,000 years old. So the Nazca mummies were hanging out in that area with the grim headhunting Nazca people for thousands of years. Why?
Yeah.
That raises some questions about the Nazca mummies. But there have been remote viewers who have remote viewed the Nazca mummies who have said, "Oh, they're peaceful, loving, or they were peaceful, loving beings." So, but then you have to ask, well, if that's true, why are they hanging out with headhunters? But yeah, osmium, Raphael, the fingerprints on Maria, which bear no resemblance to any known fingerprint, certainly not human or primate fingerprint.
There's just too many things adding
pretty
up.
much the only ones that have fingers, but it doesn't really. The closest that I've been able to see from some internet sleuths is if we're going to call them fingers on lizards. There's a certain variety of lizard that has fingerprints that are a little similar, not super similar, but a little similar. And the small Nazca mummies do appear to have more reptilian DNA. So it wouldn't surprise me if the larger ones, like Maria, had at least a little bit.
One of the anthropologists had mentioned that they had like scale-like features on some of the bodies they were talking about.
Yeah, the little ones especially are very reptilian,
Mhm.
egg-laying, and like the gremlins may have had this reptilian feature in their mouth. I want to know more about the gremlins. The gremlins are crazy.
They're fangs, it's almost comical.
It is.
Fangs.
They've got claws, they've got fangs, they've got a tail. I mean, come on. But
Yeah, if one of those was chasing me, I'd probably, I don't know, try to get away.
yeah. You would not want to meet 10 of those in a dark alley.
No, that's a good way to put it.
I just hear the movie sounds. Oh my God, with the little gremlin laughter. Like,
yeah, makes me think of Gremlins.
Don't feed them after midnight.
yeah,
that's right. Yeah, don't. Hopefully, you don't have any cannibals that are feeding them after midnight. Because then it's going to really get bad. But anyway, so I know that you on the channel, just to switch gears here a little bit. You cover a lot of things. Number one, I love your format. I've thought about trying to do a format like that before, where you'll start off with some UFO videos, not to give away your formula, but and then you'll get into X and see what.
It's not much of a formula. You can give it away.
Well, but you get on X and you follow the main stories and you keep people up to date, and I really appreciate that. It's very helpful, especially with all of the information that's here, there, and everywhere. A lot of times we're told that, well, it's a slow period within, ufology. It's a slow period for disclosure. Well, every episode that you have, Jack, shows the contrary. There's always things going on in the background. But one of the things that you cover a lot, you use UFOs, hauntings, psychic events, and other synchronicities, right? So, within the world and the paranormal and the phenomena in general. Do you see all these things as different expressions of like one system or source? Different beings like the Nazca mummies, for example, or the Nazca beings, the tridactyls, could be separate from, like, let's say, hauntings? Or do you believe that it's just one source, the phenomena that's showing many masks? Because you get a lot of that, the Jacques Vallée and stuff like that, where the phenomena just appears to us as we wish to perceive them. Or do you think it's just both?
That is the $1 million question. So yeah, let's explore that. John Keel had this idea that, there was an energy field, and we were a field that we were interacting with, and it was very reflective. And, we got out of it what we brought into it. And Carl the Crusher was saying something very similar the other day, particularly in reference to like Skinwalker Ranch and certain haunted areas. And I think there is that quality, but I don't think it's reflective as so much as we are co-creating with the phenomenon. It is not a mirror. It is a thing, or many, many things. But it does have that property. And there is this quality of co-creation, and I've experienced it. I know you guys are experiencers. We haven't had time to discuss your experiences, but my own experiences definitely bear out the idea of co-creation. That I'm putting something out there, and something else is meeting me halfway. When I'm able to meet it halfway, and the trick is being able to meet it halfway. meditation, whatever works for you. And I've gone through periods where I could do that very successfully. And right now I'm kind of I haven't been meditating as much, and I'm not, but I'm starting to get back into it. And hopefully I can ramp that up. But I do continue to see UFOs and things, but I haven't had a lot of what I would describe as metaphysical, explicitly metaphysical experiences in the last 6 months. But I have seen a number of UFOs. However, it really is all connected. They are possibly expressions of the same thing. The UFO experiences that I've had recently were very much conscious connections, consciously interacting with me. I went to an ayahuasca retreat. I don't know if we can talk about that on your channel. You can delete that out. A meditation retreat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was meditating the first night, deep in the medicine, and I was having this experience where I was interacting with dimensions and able to perceive dimensions. And I'm not somebody that sees stuff while I'm under the medicine. Yeah. I have other experiences, resonances, and interactions, and so on, and able to meditate very deeply. And but I don't see stuff like a lot of people do. But on this occasion, although I wasn't seeing anything, I was perceiving dimensions, seeing without seeing. It was a really interesting experience. And afterwards, now when you're out of the medicine, you're sober, unless you've really taken too much of the medicine, which it can stay with you. But if you haven't, OD'd on the medicine, then you're sober afterward, for all intents and purposes. And I was smoking a cigarette, looking at the stars, saying, "Hey, that was really cool." I felt like I was like making a connection. Was I making a connection? Anybody want to say hello? And about 30 seconds later, a UFO, a bright white light like that, half a second, extremely close, extremely bright. And 2 UFOs appeared the next day before the ceremony. So I was perfectly sober. And this was actually about dusk, about 5 o'clock. Before the sun went down and there were no stars, and there were I was out there smoking a cigarette, and one whizzed by on that side for about half a second, and another whizzed by on the other side for about half a second. It was interesting. So I go back from the retreat, and over the next week, I see 3 more UFOs. And the first time I'm driving my son Benny home from daycare. And he's like 18 months old. And I see this, it's about 5 o'clock, 5:30. And I see this bright white light in front of me. There's no stars out at the time. And I am wondering, because it's just right directly in front of me, are you a UFO? If you're a UFO, do something a UFO would do, something a star or a plane, coming at me wouldn't do. All of a sudden, there's a flash on the horizon, and my eye goes to it. And then I go, and it vanishes immediately. And I go back up to where the object was, and it's gone. So I assume that was the same object, just like moving extremely fast or jumping. And I see 2 more over the next few days. And then it fades, and I haven't seen a UFO since. I don't think. And well, I'm trying to, anyway, whatever. Basically, I haven't seen a UFO since. And that's because I was making a connection, a consciousness connection at the retreat. And something was answering me. Yes. Something was saying hello. Yes. Hey, here's good job, Jack. Here's a cookie. You're getting kind of close, or, you're getting closer than you usually are. So that was cool. And so is that a spiritual event? Is that a metaphysical event? Is that a consciousness? Is that an other dimensional event? Is that an alien in a tin can running around? I tend to think it's probably more of the former than the latter. Mm-hmm. And so many of my experiences with UFOs and the phenomenon in general is like that. Not all on ayahuasca. I have had a lot of, sober experiences as well. But so much of it is consciousness related and something that is interacting with you. Mm-hmm. Whether you want to call that spiritually, however you want to think of it, a consciousness connection. And I'm inclined to think that a vast portion of the phenomenon, maybe a majority. In fact, Peter Maxwell Slattery has said, if you know who that is, the Australian experiencer, I think he said the split was like 85 or something like that. 85 other dimensional and like 15%, aliens and tin cans. So I'm inclined to think that it could be something like that. It could be that significant. And that is the phenomenon. But there are beings out there, and there are very physical ships that you can interact with, that you can shoot down, you can reverse engineer, you can climb aboard, you can build your own ship. You can, as they do.
It was really nice to hear you mention your experience, and you're like, it'd be really nice if something showed up. That happened to me last year. I had a dream that I was in a suburban area and a UFO showed up and took me. And then there was a lot more that happened, but I'm summarizing. And then on July 4th, after the fireworks, went to the beach and I meditated in the dark and then was looking up at the sky. And then it was time to go. We're walking away. And as I'm walking towards the exit, girlfriend was behind me with her friend talking. And I'm like, this neighborhood, I'm like, this looks very familiar. This looks like that dream. And then I said out loud, it would be really cool if a UFO showed up right now and about like 300, 200 feet right above the house, this huge white orb. And I can't say it was a tin can because it was just a white mini sun is the best description, the size of a bus, like just appeared. It wasn't there. And now it's there. It appeared. And then it shot off, no noise, towards the ocean, went into the clouds. And as it shot into the clouds and lit up the sky, you can actually see the light beams like coming out from the clouds, but it never exited the other side. So where did it go? And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, guys, did you see that? And they were like, no, what are you talking about? I was like, how did you not see that? That it lit up the sky. And, but yeah, it happens. And I feel like they hear you, whether you speak with your mouth or even, with your mind, they can hear somehow or make that connection to your thoughts, that intention, it goes out.
There is a conscious connection. So, Melissa and I, as our viewers know, we do a lot of spirit box sessions and we talk to beings over the spirit box, but, and it's not a paranoia thing. When we first started delving, and I use that word on purpose, delving into contact with the phenomena in general, we get this feeling of being observed. Okay. Again, not in a paranoia way, but more kind of just like do you feel like we're being observed? Yeah. Do you feel
Like a
uncomfortable about
presence.
that? Do you feel uncomfortable about that? No. Okay. And we just continue to, go ahead and contact. Now we've heard things over the spirit box saying the eyes are around you, meaning that they're observing. We've also got recorded on the spirit box where they're saying, look, they speak, referring to her and I. And so there is that connection. But when we feel that, we're recognizing the phenomena. Upon recognizing the phenomenon, it is saying, at least I feel, okay, this is an internal feeling that is saying, oh, look, I'm being recognized. It is that co-creation. It is that exchange. It is that handshake. Okay. And I think that a lot of people, I've never seen anything in my life. I've never seen anything in my life. I don't believe in them because I haven't seen them. Well, I look at it this way. The phenomena is not going to be interested in the people that deny its existence, right? Because that would be as a waste of time. I'm not talking about a UFO flap that's going over a town or a city where it's actually impacting people that probably had no thought about it in the first place, right? As much as they may, we have news about UFO and stuff, to some people that's very niche. And so they don't even think about it. They just think about going 9 to 5. So you have a UFO flap that shows up, or one singular orb in New Jersey that they say is a drone. Now, some of them might be, but the ones that we're talking about are very anomalous. And they go, oh, wow. And then they start thinking about it, right? But it's that connection. There has to be that connection, that handshake, not to be dark, but there's that saying, if you stare long enough into the abyss, it stares back at you. And to those people that are experiencers, and then I'll step off my soapbox. I tend to do that on this channel. To those people that are experiencers, they know what I'm talking about. That there is this recognition on some level that can give one the goosebumps as I feel them now as I'm talking about it, to where a connection is being made. And it can be very fleeting, or it could last for a very long time. But it is felt. And those experiences, as I'm sure it has with you, Jack, really just expands our consciousness. It's a positive thing, even if the experience is negative with a negative entity or something like that, it can be taken as a positive thing because you learn from that experience, right? And it just blows open your whole, I guess, belief system that there's more than just the physical. It just blows everything away as far as I'm concerned, to where you really start feeling connected. But at the same time, you feel like, at least for me, I won't put in anybody else, you feel like you've lost so much of that connection for such a long time. You can never make up that time that you lost. But if you continue to seek that connection, you can still grow from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm 54. We started really experiencing things 3-4 years ago, and I go, oh man, for 50 years, I've always known the existence of the phenomenon. I've never doubted since I was a little kid, but I never really experienced a lot of them. But when you feel that, then you're like, oh man, I've 50 years. Why didn't I feel this? And then you're like, oh, thank goodness I'm feeling this now, because I'd rather know what it feels like now than never know it all. Comments, Jack?
That's awesome, man. I love it. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Christian, for sharing that amazing orb experience. That was terrific. This stuff has changed my life. It really has, in a huge way. I was not like you. I went through my whole life not a believer in UFOs and an atheist as well. And for the pedantic among you, somebody that does not believe in spirituality in any way, a materialist. And when I discovered UFOs and started investigating them, when Lou Elizondo came out of the closet and the Beaver, Utah video came out. I don't know if you've seen that. Just a few seconds long, but that did as much for me as Lou and made me take Lou more seriously. And then researching UFOs more broadly, and just, I don't have a day job. I'm a novelist. I can devote all my time to studying this stuff. And I did, like, obsessively. And there's a straight line from UFOs to the paranormal and the consciousness stuff. And, I circled around various rabbit holes, and finally I went down the Skinwalker Ranch rabbit hole, since that's where ATIP and OSAP started, and I had to go there. And I avoided it for a while, but had to go there. And they have all the supernatural, paranormal, crazy stuff happen, right? And so I started researching the paranormal with the same vigor that I researched the UFO stuff, because if it's connected, it's connected. You can't ignore a vein of research just because it doesn't fit your worldview. But it didn't fit my worldview. And so I did the research, and I was shocked. It seemed to be real. My research was pretty solid. And I was like, okay, crap. All right. But I don't believe in spirits or ghosts or souls or anything. When we die. So how do I make sense of this? Well, it must be some sort of alien artifact. There's ghosts, and people are experiencing these things, and they're real things, because my research is pretty solid, but they can't be experiencing souls or ghosts because they don't exist. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and form a ghost hunting group, and I'm going to start ghost hunting, and I'm going to research UFOs through the back door. If this is alien technology or ramifications of alien technology that we can actually experience, then, oh boy, we can actually learn something about the UFO topic. So I did. I co-founded a ghost hunting group, and we did ghost hunting, and we had some amazing success ghost hunting. And I had some ghosty experiences. And, after a while, I was like, I don't think this is alien. Yeah, maybe not. And so I went into Google, just challenging Google. Do we have souls? What's Google going to say? And so what came back was near-death experiences.
I had a connection with a deceased relative that told me, lack of a better word, gave me a download in a point in my life when I wasn't really I believed, but I wasn't looking into it. And they're like, look up near-death experiences. And I felt compelled, like I had to do it. And I did. And I'm like, oh my God. And I never thought it would lead to the UFO topic, but it does. It's consciousness and all that. And that's it in a nutshell. But
yeah, it totally does. It totally does.
Mhm.
And that's I started researching near-death experiences, and again, obsessively. I was listening or reading, like 2 or 3 a day over the course of about 3 years. So I probably absorbed thousands of near-death experiences. And one of my ghost hunting buddies was a Reiki master, and my research had touched on Reiki, and I didn't really believe in it. But again, my research, I'm a pretty good researcher, and I was like, the research is interesting. Maybe there's something there. I can't see how that's possible, but I'm listening to all these near-death experiences and having these ghosty experiences. Why not give it a shot, right? So I let her do some Reiki on me, and I assume you guys know what Reiki is. Hands-on energy healing. Yeah,
actually took classes. Yeah.
Nice. So she did Reiki on me, and I felt the energy. I felt, for lack of a better word, the force. Yeah, I'm a big Star Wars guy.
Yep,
I felt the force.
Yes.
The force. Nice. And that changed my world. Feeling this supernatural, for lack of a better word, or spiritual, whatever you want to call it, energy that did not come from me or from her directly, that was channeled from somewhere. And it was just incredible. And when I moved to my current location in College Station, I found a Reiki master, and I started learning Reiki. And now I took a 1.5 year long course, and now I'm a Reiki master. I'm actually a Karuna master, which is one level above a Reiki master. And there's like 3 levels above that. That's not that impressive, but she is impressive. She is amazing. My Reiki instructor was incredible. She's like one of these top level experiencers that interact with entities all the time, and she meditates for hours every day. She really, and she's like Zen. You meet her and she's just so calm and cheerful, and just, she's in it. I really admire that. But yeah, so I learned Reiki, and I learned, working with the energy, and my experiences that I had been having, because I guess I skipped a major step. I started having experiences. And, I'm not going to go into a lot of those, but, they were spiritual and personal and, amazing, really incredible. And so the experiences that I had been having really kicked up a huge notch once I started learning Reiki and meditating a lot, and, doing the work, because that's what I've learned for me personally. I think there's a lot of people that are innately gifted and don't have to do the work, which is nice. They're born at a higher vibration rate, and I think that's awesome. I don't think I was, but I am able to get there if I do the work. And I shouldn't even call it work, but spiritual practices, being a spiritual person. Work is probably the wrong framing on that. And so I had some really cool experiences. I had a Kundalini awakening, which was insane. And when I say Kundalini awakening, I don't mean it in the broader context, because a lot of people use that word in a broader sense. And every enlightenment modality is a special thing. But a Kundalini awakening is a very, specific Hindu modality of enlightenment. I am not Hindu. I did not deserve this. This was a gift. Somebody gave me this as a gift. And it was an incredible experience. Lasted for 5 hours, and it was nice. Yeah. And the side effects lasted a week after that. And it was just, I didn't need to sleep, basically. I had like a couple 2-hour naps a day for a week. I was dancing in the kitchen at 4 a.m. It was incredible. And so I had some cool experiences, and sure enough, I started to see UFOs, and I'm still seeing them today, and I'm still interacting with the energy. And so studying UFOs and going where the research goes on UFOs changed my life. And getting into the consciousness stuff, the spiritual stuff, however you want to phrase it, totally changed my life. I used to be terrified of death, and I had a grim outlook. I had signed up for Alcor, this body preservation company, cryogenics. That's how terrified of death I was. It was the only non-zero chance I had of not dying. And I've canceled that.
Good.
Totally wonderful. But you do have to be willing to explore some areas that might be uncomfortable.
That's right. I think that everything has a door to it. So when it comes to contact, when it comes to communication per se with NHI or ghosts, or whatever terminology we want to put on them, there's a door, but many keys can open the door. Like I'm terrible at meditating. Have I really deeply tried to? Probably not. But when I've sat down and tried, I've only had a few times where I'm successful. But there's other means, I should say that. There's other keys that can open the same door. So when it comes to that experience, when it comes to our bodies breaking down and our bodies passing on and our spirit, our soul, that's another doorway. Everything is a door in my belief system that we have to eventually go through. Okay. And some of those might lead to dark recesses, but that's when we actually take our light that a lot of people talk about having, right? And instead of just sitting there with the light and going, oh, look at me, I'm full of light, and not doing anything, we have to take that candle into the darkness to expose the darkness with the light, right? So kind of like disclosure. I know I'm being really kind of like out there, esoteric and stuff, but like disclosure. We're all candles in this, right? And so if we actively take the steps to shine the light on what's being hidden, to shine the light on the darkness, not saying evil, just the darkness, the obscure, then the more we're going to find out, right? So everything's kind of a doorway that leads to the next experience, to the next level of growth, no matter what we do, whether it's fighting alcoholism or addiction, or opening ourselves up spiritually, or experiencing something that we've never experienced before, like, I don't know, skydiving, or it just doesn't matter. Everything is an experience, and the only thing that holds us back is ourselves, right? So I know that there's a lot of people that view and they say, I wish I could see a UFO. I wish I could see a ghost. I wish I could have an experience. Well, me, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've experienced a lot of stuff, and there's days, months, weeks, I don't know, a year, I may not, and then the next day I will. But as long as I keep myself open to it and I actively seek it and want it in a pure intention, at least for myself, then it will happen. Okay. But the more I sit back and say, no, this isn't going to happen for me, I won't, because I'm internally shutting myself off to it. Right. I don't know if any of this makes any sense. I'm kind of feel like I'm rambling here, Jack, but
you're doing fine.
Yeah, but I agree with you on a lot of that stuff. I used to be Catholic. I was raised Catholic. And right about 19, I realized it wasn't for me, through my own spiritual kind of awakening. And I kind of stumbled around in the forest for a while. I had a woman at a Renaissance festival just came up. I didn't even know her. She came up to me and she was like, you just seem like you've lost something that you used to think that was really special and important to you. And she was like, I have this book. It's called The Spiral Dance by Starhawk. It's a Wiccan woman that's a great author. And she was just like, here's my copy. This is my phone number. Let me know when you're done reading it. She just flittered away. And I was like, wow, you don't get many signs like that. She didn't know who I was, but she sensed something in me. And so I read that and it kind of broadened my horizons. Am I Wiccan now? No. But it was that step. It was that door that I had to walk through in order to find myself more, right? That enlightenment, right? Enlightenment is being able to accept us for who we are. This is my feeling, for who we are, rather than, and that connects us to the universe and creation, rather than waiting for the universe and creation to tell us who we are, right? We have to find it within ourselves. And then through doing a podcast like you do, Jack, or talking about your experiences like you do, your truths, and passing them on to the audience is, I hope, and I know that all you have to do is have positive influence on one person. All it takes is one, and it has a ripple effect. And so I am sure that, like you have, and I'm not trying to candy coat this, like you have with me, okay, when I watch your podcast, when I listen to you speak, okay, I may be at a different level than you. We're all on different levels out here. But you have had a positive impact on me to where if the news about the phenomenon, disclosure, this, that, and the other, the government, blah, 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 can get me down, I know that I can go to Cosmic Road and watch an episode, and I am uplifted. Right?
Thank you, man.
And that, just so you know, because I know that a lot of times we don't really tell each other, strangers, friends, otherwise, family members, how much we appreciate each other. I appreciate you, and I know that your viewership appreciates you for doing the same to them as you've done for me, and more. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. I really appreciate
that. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And I know that your subscribers really appreciate you guys.
Well, we do what we can. This isn't about money. This isn't about fame. I told myself that when I started this, that, if that stuff happened, it happened. But that was not the purpose. That if there was at least one person out there that would hear me and even have 10% of like, I know what that feels like. John's saying something, I know what that feels like, or I had something similar. Wow, that's made all the difference, especially when it comes to experiencers.
Yeah. I think that this is the dawn of the experiencer. I mean, I think that experiencers are going to be very important if this Trump UFO disclosure plan achieves any fruit at all. If it, just the merest, scrap of UFO disclosure. Yeah, there's some documents that show that we had a ship. Yeah, I mean, we can't find the ship. Who knows where the ship is or the bodies? I mean, maybe someday we'll find it. But yeah, there's some documents and there's even some pictures. There's a ship and it's declassified. Wow, man, we got a UFO, guys. I guess we're not alone. Even if it's just at that level, that's UFO disclosure. Obviously it'd be more impactful if we had a ship and some bodies, some physical stuff. And, but it might start off slow and get faster. But once we get there, a lot of people are going to start researching this stuff like I did. And it's going to lead them like I was led, to the interesting stuff, the weird stuff. And they're going to have questions, and people who have experienced this, and are going to be of interest, I think. And, I don't want to, anyway, there's there's some wonderful experiences out there like Peter Maxwell Slattery, that could really be a light, in a chaotic time. And I think that, yeah, it's the dawn of the experiencer. And I think that's going to be very important going forward, if things happen even a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't look for the government to give us all our answers. That's another thing, right? I mean, it would be nice.
We should hold our breath waiting for the government. They've done a good job so far.
Yeah, I did have a question because it's rare to come across someone who also practices Reiki, and you're definitely more experienced than I have. But I wanted to ask, because I know everyone's different, and maybe we even have our own styles and stuff. But I've done Reiki on people before, and just like your reaction the first time, where someone's like, "Oh my god," like I actually feel something. I've done this someone, and she was like, "Are you touching me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not touching you." And she's like, "I feel it. It's so weird." And I was like, "Yeah, it's real." But I find that it's like when I do it, there are times where I also have this like weird intuitive connection where things will come up. And then I also notice that things will also come up in the recipient. So they will sometimes, and it'll come into my mind like, is there something wrong with this leg? Like you've had an issue with this leg? And they're like, yeah. And sometimes it will invoke a memory in them. And it's almost like I'm going to the root of where that energy is trapped, if that makes sense. And there are other times where it's almost like there's a connection that's made. And then I kind of have this um, intuitive knowing, or I just know what to say. It comes through me, but it doesn't feel like it's me in that sense. It almost feels like the information is given to me. Have you ever had anything like that in your experience?
Okay, so in my Reiki class, I was the dunce. All right. That's why it was hilarious when I was the one that had the Kundalini awakening. Everybody else deserved it 10 times more than I did. But so what I was good at sending energy. But the other guys in my class and ladies in my class, when they were giving Reiki to somebody, they could make connections like you could. They could sense. Sometimes it would be a spiritual connection, but more often it would be a physical connection. Like I'm sensing that your kidneys need some energy. Or are you having a pain in your shoulder? Stuff like that. And so sometimes it was just very helpful, stuff like that. My Reiki master, my Reiki instructor, she's more the one that would have the more spiritual insights. And so I wonder if you might be kind of next level. If you're having these insights when you're doing this, you could be more open and accessing stuff that me and my dunce cat, just can't quite do. But that's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, I know I have to keep practicing, but it's still cool. And I tell everybody too, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, you have a kid who's like 8 years old and this guy's a prodigy and he can paint like Picasso and everything. And I think it's like that in terms of like energy and what people can do, but it doesn't mean that um, you can't learn this. You can't do this if you don't put the work in and do it. And even though I have that connection sometimes, I still feel like it doesn't happen all the time. Like it happens sometimes. And then, so it's like, I still feel like I need to practice. Like I have to keep at it, if that makes sense.
Well, okay. So my wife is a scientist. She was always very skeptical of all of this. And I would come home and tell her about Reiki and she would kind of roll her eyes and, but then some stuff started to happen and she was able to experience a few things and she was like, wow, could this be real? And she tried it out herself. She went to class. And she took the year-long class, not quite a year and a half, but she took the year-long class, became a Reiki master, and I swear she's better at it than I am. And she's able to see stuff.
That's awesome.
She was doing Reiki on me a few months ago, and she saw this white spark coming off of my head. I never get anything like that. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it goes to show you.
I hope you keep doing it and see what happens.
To the point, yeah, to the point where it keeps happening. Even like my fiance now will often ask me because I started doing that on her because she has like a lot of troubles and trauma and all this other stuff that happened in her past, and things come up. But then I always tell people for people watching too, that it doesn't fix all your problems, that you have to fix you, but it can help you and balance energy within yourself, and that energy is real. And it's just interesting that like in all these, in a lot of abduction cases and near-death experiences, that's what they're telling you, that energy is real, that we don't fully understand that yet, that consciousness permeates through everything, and you'll hear things like everything is alive, and we don't realize that yet.
There was a near-death experience I came across where he recalled, on the other side, he recalled a past life where he was a rock.
Yeah,
You know,
we don't get that.
Reality is weird. And, as you were saying, the beings that abduct people, sometimes they instruct people in stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
They'll teach people about chakras. They'll teach people how to do hands-on healing.
Yep.
It's a thing. I don't know what it means, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested, and it seems like we're coming to like a fulcrum point because, I mean, now more than ever, there's just like all like the conversations we're having right now, and Ross Coulthart and going to Peru to investigate Nazca mummies, and Congress having these hearings, and it's just like all this stuff is like coming in, and like I'm hoping I live through it. I hope I get to see, maybe not through the government, but to the point where it's like common knowledge that we're not alone, and there are other things we just don't understand yet, and we're starting to.
Well, we do need government disclosure. And I mean, you're 100% right. We don't need the government for so much of this. We can have our own personal connection with the phenomenon.
Yes.
And I give Stephen Greer a lot of grief, and he deserves it. But he has popularized the idea. I call him the Martin Luther of ufology, because he has popularized the idea of a personal connection with the beyond instead of going through an intermediary like the Catholic model. He has, created this Protestant model or popularized it. It's always existed. But, he's popularized the idea of CE5. And so we don't need the government. But we do need public oversight of these black programs that have been doing God knows what. And we do know some of it. I mean, we've had multiple victims, I'm going to call them victims of, the child psionic program, where they take kids and they co-opt them and they do nefarious things to boost their psychic abilities because they need these psionic assets to interact with the technology and the beings and God knows what else they're doing.
Like in Stranger Things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was, I think, inspired by the Montauk Project, which was part of all of this. I think. I'd like more information on the Montauk Project, but some of it's anyway. But they kill people. They've brainwashed the populace of the world, U.S. and in the world for 80 years. They do bad things. They are shooting at UFOs. I mean, this is me. I mean, you do your own research, but okay. But from my research, my understanding, they are shooting at UFOs. And taking those living survivors hostage and doing things. Meanwhile, they are working with beings, willing beings. Dylan Borland testified in Congress recently about a giant UFO that was crewed by NHI that was at the NASA hangar or outside the NASA hangar at Langley a few years ago. A giant freaking crazy anomalous thing. So the UFO control group, as I call them, they're working with some beings. They're assisting in abductions. This is reported by countless experiencers. They're shooting at some UFOs, working with beings of others. So is humanity in a proxy war with aliens duking it out? Meanwhile, they're working with the beings they like to abduct people, and they're messing with kids, doing nefarious things. They're killing people. Yeah, we need public oversight of these guys. They don't deserve any trust. We need so we do need official government disclosure. We need to knock open all the doors and get oversight. Now, what really galls me is that I don't know if we can knock open the doors. I think that at the deepest level, they have to open the doors from the inside. The UFO control group has to want disclosure. And I think some of them do, which is why Lou Elizondo and David Grush are still alive. But, okay, so do we grant amnesty?
Yeah, I know it's a big issue.
Is amnesty the only way to get them to open the door from the inside? Now, that's what really galls me, because as I have just laid out, these are some scumbags that have done horrible things for a long time, not least of which is brainwashing the world to believe this doesn't exist and painting everybody that has experienced this as tinfoil hat crazies. But they've done awful, horrible things. They do not deserve amnesty. But we need to end these programs, or at least get oversight of them. And that, I mean, if that is the imperative, to end these programs or to get oversight of them, is it worth giving amnesty to people who really don't deserve it in order to make this happen? Yeah. And that, my friend, is a moral quandary I will leave to you guys to figure out. But man, yeah, what do you guys think?
Somebody had mentioned on a podcast, and he brought up a good point, and it was kind of like what you were talking about. He's like, if we could actually move forward, if it meant we could actually move forward as a civilization, we know we're not alone, we get the information, maybe some of the technology, free energy, whatever, but it meant that you had to let them go, would you? And it's just like, what do you do there? And I think with what I've learned from near-death experiences and, unconditional love, as cheesy as it sounds, yes, like obviously definitely put things in place so this never happens again. But at the same time, if that's how it had to go down, and yeah, but it also brings the question that, like some representatives have brought up, that are we really a democracy if we're getting doors closed in our faces by people we don't even know their names, like who belong to these agencies and stuff, and they're calling the shots and they're making these decisions, and so it's a big problem. I'm at least grateful. I'm very grateful, at the very least, that now the public at large is starting to become aware of it. They're starting to see all these things that are happening, and Epstein files and all this stuff is coming out. And it's like, yeah, it's like yesterday's conspiracy is now becoming today's fact, so I'm grateful.
It makes me wonder how much we don't know, which there's a lot. And, but I will say this, until that time comes, we've got Jack with Cosmic Road that'll cover
Cosmic Convergence.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. But we try to cover as much as we can, to further the discussion on disclosure. Are we alone? No, we're not alone. But anyway, are we alone? What are the impact on human civilization, the present, all the way to the dawn of man, as far as I'm concerned, and getting this exposure. Light is the best medicine to heal wounds. And this is a long-standing wound. But until that time comes, and even afterwards, I know that we can count on Jack to keep us up to date. And Jack, I want to thank you again for joining us today. I know that we could go on probably for another 20 hours, but I do hope that you come back. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I could just check you off my bingo card for right now. But I've got a lot of bingo cards that have your name on it. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And everybody, like, share, subscribe, follow Jack on Cosmic Road, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. From New York Times best-selling author Jack Connor comes a realm of heroes, prophecy, and rising darkness. His epic sagas thunder with mythic stakes, fierce battles, and characters forged in fire and destiny. If you crave quests that test the soul and worlds where courage shapes fate, enter the legends of Jack Connor and let the adventure claim you. Bad monkey!